How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Today I sit down with Rob from Digital Asset News. We talk about when he's going to get completely out of the market, what he thinks is going to happen very soon. He said that there's a golden opportunity before Friday. So we're going to talk about that. Also talk about how he evaluates investments, what he's doing with real estate versus crypto, how he approaches this point in the market where it's a little bit boring, and a lot of other stuff too. It was a great conversation. So definitely check out the link to Rob underneath the video. I'm going to leave a link to his channel. And if you do want to trade cryptocurrency, there's a link underneath the video to Margex where you can trade using leverage. And this isn't right for everyone. For example, Rob does not use leverage, but I use a small portion of my portfolio that I've set aside for leverage trading. So if you do want to try that out, there's a link underneath the video. Now let's get over to the conversation with Rob. Rob, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. We had to have you on again because last time I think everyone loved it. They loved your contrarian views. And I want to ask you about, when you're going to jump on the market, because I think that's still the plan. But first, maybe just let us know how you're feeling about this market.
I'm feeling like we're at the right place at the right time. I mean, everybody talks about how the 4-year cycles. I remember back in 2021, they were talking about super cycles, and we'll just keep going up forever, because everybody starts to get it and there's mass adoption coming in and ETFs are right around the corner, maybe next year. And then of course that didn't happen. And then we saw the same exact thing happen. 2022, there was a big collapse, and people will say, but that doesn't make any sense because that was because of FTX, Voyager, Celsius, and BlockFi, Three Arrows Capital. Those are just black swan events. But it seems like these black swan events keep happening and happening and happening. So, as time went on, I see like we're doing the same thing. And I've also heard the same narrative come up, which is super cycle, bro. Like, well, I mean, it might happen, but so far, again, I think we're right along where we should be. I think we're not going to see too much massive appreciation until we get out of this presidential election type of cycle, which will be Super Tuesday, first Tuesday in November. Then the next president, whether that be a he or a she, takes office on January 20th, and that will be 2025, just like it happened in 2021 and 2017.
So you then, in theory, would be bullish right now. Maybe not over the next month or two, but over the next year and a half.
I think it's, and I think people get sick of this, but I'm long-term bullish, but I'm short-term, I don't know. but it makes sense because like we're gonna get Jerome Powell. He's gonna come out and he's gonna talk at Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and that's gonna be the bellwether. Is he gonna give the thumbs up for we're gonna do some cuts, or we're gonna give some thumbs down, and we're not gonna do some cuts because he's data-driven dependent. And then of course people will say, well, when he does a rate cut, isn't that bad because the economy is sucking? Well, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So you could see, like, if it's 25 basis points, the market might have they may have already priced it in. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're at or near all-time highs for the S&P 500 and NASDAQ.
Yeah, agreed. I think we're like right at it for the S&P 500. Yeah, and I think some people forget too that just because the economy's not great doesn't necessarily mean that the markets are down, because they're forward facing. So you can have like a little bit of turbulence. I mean, right now, the last year, everyone's been, or the last 2-3 years, everyone's been warning about recession, and technically we haven't hit it, but yet everyone's still worried about it. But Bitcoin's hit all-time highs, everything's hit all-time highs. Do you think that's just because there's more money out there? I saw like $38 billion was added to the US debt yesterday. Is that why?
It has to be one of those things where you say, well, why are things coming up? It all comes down to liquidity. It all has to be with liquidity. And that's in a macro cycle. And we talk about this in the channel many times. If you overlay the M2 money supply and you overlay that with S&P 500, NASDAQ, you can take it for any kind of stock market exchange. And also on crypto and digital asset markets, you can see that it just kind of follows the same trajectory up and to the right. And I think so when we talk about the macro, we have to understand that if we don't have liquidity, it's not going to happen. I know people will keep saying, but Bitcoin, it's a great hedge against inflation and it's going to be awesome. That's true. We get that. But does 100% of people out there get that? They don't. And they get scared and they become irrational. When they become irrational, they start getting to other things that they're like, okay, I got to get out of this because this is a risky asset. And what do? Cash. Even though we know that in the long term, cash is trash. So short term, who knows? Long term, I think we're going to do okay.
I saw an interesting chart today that showed the S&P 500 just appreciating about 3x or 3.5x over the last 12 years, since 2012. But then they denominated it in Bitcoin, and it's the same thing with houses, right? Where it becomes cheaper and cheaper. And the graph actually went down and to the right, because Bitcoin's over performed so well, or outperformed so well. I know that we had talked before about how you had looked at a condo, maybe you bought the condo and you wish you had just bought Bitcoin. How are you approaching that right now? And as we go into the peak, I know that you had talked about like taking some profits, but are you investing more into crypto right now or real estate? And even if you're comfortable with it, I haven't heard you talk about this. And if you're not comfortable with it, let me know. But how does your real estate portfolio stack up versus Bitcoin? Not obviously, or crypto, but not values, but just like size wise.
So what I try to do is I'll unpack that question with this. I try to listen to people who are smarter than me, which is not hard to find. And one of those is Simon Dixon. And he's been on my show many a time. He's one of those Bitcoin OGs back in the day. And what he tells me is, he says, Rob, what I'm trying to do is every month I try to get a little more Bitcoin into my portfolio than I had at the beginning. So at the end of the month, I want a little more Bitcoin as opposed to the beginning. So I say, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I've been trying to do that. And I've been relatively successful over the last bear market. And what the bear market taught me was this: nobody makes a boatload of money. No, I can't say nobody. Probably the easiest way to make money is to not really think too much about it and just think to yourself, okay, if I invest here over the long haul, I'm going to do pretty good. If I don't, then of course it's going to be bad. Here's a prime example. I got into stocks for some reason. I'm not a stock person in 2021 when it was towards the all-time high. What did I do? I bought all the great stuff, right? I bought Microsoft and I bought Amazon because I'm a genius. And then what did I do during the bear market in 2022? Nothing. And now when I looked at my Robinhood account, I'm like, damn it, that's the same amount I bought back in the day, because it's, you know, just a little bit above. So when I take a look at this stuff, I think to myself, and just like what you talked about, if you denominate stocks into Bitcoin, if you denominate house into Bitcoin, if you denominate apples, oil, land, it doesn't really matter. You see that the price will, or the denomination will always go down. And then of course, Bitcoin value will go up. You just have to have a long enough time horizon. So to answer your last question, how does everything stack up with my crypto portfolio and my real estate portfolio? I'd say like, I have more heavy on the real estate. And then it's a funny thing because real estate, for some reason, it appreciates over time because it's essentially what we talked about, the M2 money supply. And then of course, then when we have people who are, or the real estate, not the agents, but the actual construction teams, and they're actually building these houses and they start to slow down, then my houses become more valuable. So over time, I just say, well, this is what I'm doing and I will keep doing this here. But I know with almost 100% assurance that within the next 5-10 years, my Bitcoin and crypto portfolio is going to far exceed my real estate. And that's what I'm kind of hoping for, but we'll see. Maybe it doesn't work out like that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And that was a bit of a selfish question because I am investing in real estate right now. And it seems like after you do one deal, more and more deals seem to hit your inbox. So I've been looking at a few, and at the end of the day, you're always just looking for the best ROI, but you have to weigh risk and all that kind of stuff too. So it's just interesting to hear from someone that's probably, was in real estate before crypto. And then I'm the opposite. I was in crypto before real estate with the exception of my own house.
Yeah. And well, this is what's great about it is like with real estate is that when we eventually hit the downturn in the bear market, what's good about real estate is you can kind of go over there for some type of revenue. And some people say, well, if we hit like a recession, what's going to happen there because your Airbnbs are shot? That's true. And I hate to say this is not going to go over well, but if we get a major recession like the Great Recession, 2007, 2009, people are going to lose their homes. And that sucks. I would not want to be in that position. But what happens then? People have to find a place to live. So my short-term rentals become long-term rentals. And then as time goes on, I can use it that way and shift back and forth. So it's one of those things where you diversify a little bit and you kind of protect yourself. Maybe you're not making the bajillion that Sam usually does with his Lambos in his garage, but you have enough to say, okay, I feel comfortable, I'm good, and I'm relaxed.
Awesome. I literally had that conversation with someone yesterday. What happens if we hit recession while buying real estate? So I think that's good for people to realize. Um, just 2 days ago, you made a video talking about a golden opportunity happening before Friday. I think you might have alluded to it earlier,
Yeah.
but you mentioned a big reversal. Can you maybe give us an idea for what that video is about? And of course, go check out Rob's channel. Go watch a full video for context. But
Yeah, the TLDR is like what I talked about. Jerome Powell's going to talk in Jackson Hole. He's going to give his speech, and if he starts to give, he's not going to say, "Okay, everybody, we're gonna drop this by 50 basis points." He's going to give clues. He's going to say, "Well, this data says this, and this data says that." I would be interested to see how the jobs revisions actually come out, because I think they just revised it by 818,000, somewhere around there, negative, which is the most amount of revisions in the last 15 years. I know some people say, "Those bastards, how dare they do that?" But really, you got to remember this: like, how they do it is, of course, they have to get surveys, and they have to get the information to put all that in, and then they just go back and go, "Is this right? Is this correct?" And I think because of this error, they're actually going to change how they actually produce this data so we can get a little bit more accurate. But I said there was a golden opportunity because I said, look, if he does 25 basis points, which everybody's thinking, it's probably not going to change too much. But what if he does? What if he comes up and says 50 basis points? If we cut that much, first of all, there's something really wrong with the economy. And if that happens, then of course, we know if there's something that bad, what does America do? We like to print. We're number one, baby. We print money, we quantitative ease, and we print our way out of it. And if that happens, that means massive liquidity. If massive liquidity comes in, that's good for risk on assets such as ours, and we see it come up. So to me, I actually bought I didn't do a lump sum, but I bought a little bit more Bitcoin and some other cryptos that I thought would do pretty well. So we'll see. I think in the long run, I should be okay.
cool. Yeah, I feel like it's always interesting how the wording is, because sometimes that can induce, a lot of fear that there's going to be some recession if Jerome Powell says, "Oh, we had to cut 50 basis points," versus, "Hey, we still feel comfortable, but we feel like it's appropriate to cut 50 basis points." Like, just even the wording, not even the action, can change so much in how people interpret it.
True.
Yeah.
Good point.
After going to Bitcoin Nashville, and obviously, like, with so much political talk recently, I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are. I feel like maybe we spend a lot of time on this for something that we can't really control, but I'm curious what your thoughts were after that, with just like future plans for politicians to buy Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin. Some people apparently are still anti-crypto. I'm kind of curious how you think that will all play out, because obviously after rate cuts, like, that's the next thing that everyone's going to be paying attention to.
So I think that as time goes on, they're going to embrace it. But the question is, which administration, who's going to do it? I will just tell you my experience. In 2017, if you had any congressperson talking about Bitcoin or crypto, it was like a big, huge event. Like, did you hear that John Sally said da-da-da? And now of course, we're like, did you hear the Treasury Secretary something positive or something negative? And it's like not a big thing. And now we've got presidential candidates, two who are talking about it, and the third one who apparently somebody from the Treasury named Nelson talked about how they're trying to integrate crypto digital assets, and they're actually positive, even though it hasn't come out. I will just tell you this. I don't know what's going to happen, but just remember that all politicians are liars. And if you think that they're going to fulfill all their campaign promises, it's crazy. I read a quote, to idolize your politician is like thinking that the stripper likes you. And we know that's not actually true.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I think that's good for everyone to remember. And obviously after that mega bull run, hopefully we make tons of money. We all take profits and don't get too greedy. I know last video we talked about you getting, if I remember right, completely out of the market and pretty much going dark on the channel. But I saw one of your videos, I think with Ben and
Guy, maybe?
Guy, yeah. From just a few days ago, and you were talking about how that kind of got changed around that plan. I'm curious what you're thinking now.
Oh, well, so I did this video, and we talked this in depth last one. About a year ago, I said I'm going to sell 80% of all my crypto, and then once I sell the crypto, I'm going to tell people I sold my crypto, and there will be no ambiguity, and I will step down from the channel. and I will not come back until the bear market, because nobody needs me to be the rah-rah cheerleader in the bull market. Everybody's going to be just fine. Hopefully they can listen to and make some profits. The only time I think people really need to hear like a little pep talk is during the bear market, which is the worst time to come back on YouTube because no one wants to watch you. But yeah. I think at that point it is time. So when I talk about how things are changed, we were talking about recessions and how that could actually happen and what would happen if we get into a recession in 2025. And I said, well, if that happens, again, like we talked about with liquidity and the market getting spooked, I'm pretty sure I'll be sticking around for a little bit of time because I can't, those indicators that I talked about, MVRVZ score, Puel multiple, fear and greed index, price cycle top, all those things, it won't hit, so I won't be selling. So I have to stick around, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. But you're saying then that even if we head into recession, let's say recession started next quarter, that wouldn't necessarily be the end of the bull market then. I know we kind of talked about it, but
yeah. And like we talked about this a couple of days ago, I did this, I took a look at from the early 80s into the last recession, which was during the coronavirus. And I said, on average, when you have recessions, they last 10 months. But like you said initially, Sam, the market is not the economy and the economy is not the market. So the market will bottom first, then the economy will recover. And usually that takes about 10 months. So on average, you're looking at 6-7 months when the market from the peak to the drop. And that's usually when rates start getting cut. So you got 6 months of nonsense. So let's just say that we do hit that. And we see that in, let's say, the end of these quarters. So then in 2025, then they would start to rebound a little bit as we get excess liquidity. So in 2025, we may see, I mean, even though we're in that recession right now, some people say we're in a recession right now. And they say, well, because it's actually, you know, once you get too deep in the recession, then the Fed is like, hey, we're in a recession. We figured it out. So as time goes on, if you're in 2025, then you got like another 6-7 months or so as the market recovers, then maybe it just extends you out. But recessions to me, it's a scary word, but it's a natural cycle of business, crypto, digital assets, and markets. And you just have to say, what is my plan? My plan is if this happens, I accumulate. And once we get out of it, because we always do, then I take profits.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to do this again because I know people love seeing you on the channel. And of course, we'll have links to you underneath the video, top link over to your channel. So everyone go check them out. Any final thoughts, Rob?
No final thoughts. We talked enough, but I just want to say congratulations, Sam, for your meteoric rise for your channel. You went from, I think we first started talking like 120 maybe K, yeah. And now you're almost at 300K. So I think by the end of this cycle, you might be 5, 8, maybe even 1 million. So congratulations, and you're doing good work.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you guys want to give me a subscribe, there's a button underneath that you can make that happen, and go follow Rob too, because he's above me, 350, 380, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. Again, link underneath the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.